Welcome back, vinyl community.
My love will always be true, just like the break of dawn, forever brand new. As true as the rain falls from the sky, my love is a river that will never run dry. Cause I've got a love that can grow
As
back
true as the rain falls from the sky.
I've got a love
Voice of the man called Biddy McLean bringing us in. Keeping it nice, warm, and easy on a gray and rainy day in a dubwise fashion. Biddy McLean, a bit of a more modern, more current artist perhaps than I've looked at before in my Reggae Spotlight videos. He was born in 1972 as Delroy McLean, nicknamed Biddy because of his small stature, youngest of 6 children from a Jamaican family. Grew up immersed in classic music by not only American singers like Nat King Cole, but of course the Jamaican singers, Bob Marley, Johnny Clark, John Holt, and many others, absorbing all those influences. Began singing from a very young age, performing in his family's living room. By the 1980s, began performing live around sound systems in Birmingham. Went to college to study sound engineering, and while there, one of his instructors was associated with the band UB40 and recommended him to them. He appeared on their album Promises and Lies from around 1990, working as a sound engineer and occasional singer. In the 1990s, he began seriously making inroads as a solo singer with initial help from Ali Campbell of UB40. He did covers of Dedicated to the One I Love by the Shirelles, and Fats Domino's It Keeps Raining, both of which did well in the UK charts. Recorded some early solo albums. Just to let you know, first appeared in 1994, debut solo album with Natural High following in 1995. Sold Soul followed in 2003. However, it was 2004 before kind of the wider world began to sit up and take notice of Biddy McLean. In that year, an album called On Bond Street, Biddy McLean on Bond Street, Kingston J.A. appeared. This was Biddy performing mostly original songs, some cover versions, over original rhythm tracks from the 1960s from Jamaica, recorded at Duke Reid's Treasure Isle studio, as performed by the classic musicians of the time, Tommy McCook and the Supersonics. But updating those tracks with while keeping the classic sound intact with that warm acoustics of Duke Reid's Treasure Isle studio, but bringing his soaring, very soul influenced classical vocals over top. Got very widely noticed in the reggae world. That was when I first heard of him. Got good reviews. Here's a nice photo of Duke Reid right there in the 1950s, Kingston J.A., being crowned King of Sounds and Blues at one of the dances. The great Duke Reid. Biddy McLean, this album's highlight was Biddy's cover of David Ruffin's Walk Away From Love. This album was produced by Peckings. Peckings is a record shop and label run out of the UK. Was first founded by a fellow called George Price, aka Daddy Peckings, who was a very close friends with Coxsone Dodd of Studio One, kind of Jamaican's Berry Gordy. The two of them were kind of old friends from way back. George Price immigrated to the UK in 1960 as part of what was called the Windrush generation, the first wave of Jamaican immigrants that arrived in the UK aboard a ship called the Windrush. This initial community would grow and grow over the years and have a huge impact on music in the UK and the world at large. Walk Away From Love, stunning rendition of David Ruffin's tune, done by Biddy McLean with that soaring vocal style of his, very classical. He's kind of an old soul, one of these kind of throwback retro artists, yet curiously not as well known as perhaps some artists should be. So this album appeared on Bond Street, appeared from the Peckings label. George Price, Daddy Peckings, passed away some years before, I believe. The shop and label carried on by his sons, the next generation, continuing to work within that classic framework. George Price educated many of the top reggae people in the UK, including David Rodigan. The recent David Rodigan documentary has him recalling being invited over to Sunday lunch at the Peckings household and being introduced to Cox and Dodd when he walked in there. Pretty heavy company around that place, and very central to the UK reggae scene, I would say. Peckings label. A further album for Peckings would appear a year later, I believe. Made in Jamaica. Similar format, Biddy singing over classic rhythm tracks, expanding the format a bit this time to include some Studio One material with bands like the Soul Vendors and the Sound Dimension. Cox and Dodd right there, old photo, and George Price himself, founder of Peckings. I think the shop was founded around 1973. That On Bond Street album was apparently the first release on the Peckings label. Still continuing today with various productions of different artists, some dub albums. If you have this is my original copy I bought new at the time, 2004. If you have this on vinyl, you're doing well over $100 to get this on LP. From that second album, Made in Jamaica, another single would be lifted. Biddy's cover of the traditional This Train. You're backed by the Scatolites, original Scatolites track. Blue Peckings label. Following this, Biddy would leave the Peckings camp and landed up with Sly and Robbie. The rhythm section of Sly and Robbie, Sly Dunbar and Robbie Shakespeare, needs no introduction. One of the greatest rhythm sections the music world has ever known. First collaboration with them was called Moving On and appeared in 2009. Quite an R&B influenced album here. A bit of funk, a lot of soul, as well as the kind of the recognizable Sly and Robbie sound, updating Biddy's sound from those 60s tracks he'd initially made a splash with to the more recognizable Sly and Robbie Taxi sound much later. Would begin to bring in a bit of social relevance to his lyrics, which tended to be very, very romantic in nature. He's got a roots collaboration with the great Johnny Osborne on here, Jehovah, as well as some other socially relevant tunes. Moving on, 2009. In 2013, the Taxi Sessions would appear. Further collaboration with Sly and Robbie. Very classic cover. Always reminds me of the Donald Fagen, the Nightfly album cover. I wonder if that was a conscious tribute with that retro throwback style of Biddy McLean's. Increasing social consciousness beginning to appear in Biddy McLean's lyrics. Brother Man, The Right Fight, Back Way, No Love, Plead My Cause. Almost overshadowing the love songs by this point. I also have this one on vinyl. The CD and vinyl track listings of these recent albums tend to be very disparate. A lot of extra tracks on the CD, so worth picking up both if you can. The Taxi Sessions, and also as I alluded to with the On Bond Street album, Biddy's albums do tend to be quite collectible and appreciated in value quite a bit. That appeared on the Taxi Silent River label in collaboration with Sly and Robbie. The Taxi Sessions from this LP, 12-inch would also appear on the Taxi Silent River label, disco mix. Extended cut of Running Over with DJ Bit by the veteran DJ Josie Wales and Sly and Robbie on the version side. Very heavyweight vinyl pressings of these albums and singles. And in 2018, his most recent album, Love Restart, appeared, still continuing the collaboration with Sly and Robbie. Love Restart, another kind of iconic cover image. Biddy McLean, the the classicist. And here's the Rhythm Twins, Sly and Robbie right there, anchoring the bass and drums, with veteran keyboardist Robbie Lynn appearing. Again, continues very, very social relevant, increasingly socially relevant bent to his lyrics. He's got things on his mind he's trying to express through his music. Again, worth picking up both vinyl and CD because of the extra tracks on the CD version. Got both. This arrived got both of these quite cheap on Amazon, but the CD arrived kind of damaged, unfortunately. But we don't play the cover. Very heavily socially relevant on here as well. As I said, got things on his mind he expresses through his music. Biddy McLean, very much a soul revivalist, kind of similar to American artists like Leon Bridges, but he's not as well known outside the reggae world. Even in the reggae world, he's got these pockets of fandom all over various parts. He's popular in Europe, popular in Japan. I've been to Hawaii in early 2000s. I remember flipping through the bins at Barnes & Noble and seeing CDs by Biddy McLean I'd never seen before or since. Must have been some of those early ones, which I don't have. But apparently he had a popular fan base over there. But pockets of fans all over the world, yeah, not really known in a broader sense, but definitely a soaring, incredible voice, very suited to songs of a romantic nature, very soulful, one of the great voices of more recent years in Jamaican music, and grew out of that UK reggae scene. So that is my look at Biddy McLean. Oh, one more thing, just arrived, forgot to mention. This has just arrived on my doorstep this week. Pecking's label. This appeared in 2017, I think. I just picked this up. These are dub mixes to that On Bond Street album. That was what I was just playing from in the intro. And also from the Pecking's label. Here's the address. Askew Road, London, UK. The legendary Pecking's shop, founded by George Price, Daddy Pecking's, and carrying on that tradition of classic reggae music today, as is Biddy McLean. So that is my look at Biddy. Hope you enjoyed, guys. Cheers.